The way we see the world, the way we see ourselves, the way people see us, man, it's a game changer. We have a very brilliant, creative, intuitive, technicolor mind that have learned how to use their mind to work for them. We're the greatest pattern recognizers. We're the most intuitive people on the planet. We're great therapists, doctors, and nurses. We see details and patterns that most people don't see, for better or for worse. That's why we're empathic. Self-awareness is actually a superpower of the ADHD brain. Once we understand how the brain works, how our mind works from the consciousness perspective, that we are not the sum total of our thoughts. We are not our thoughts. We don't own our thoughts, but we are the manager of our thought factory.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to Jill Collins Connections. I'm telling you what, let me ask you a question. Are you struggling with sensory overload, anxiety and stress, distractibility, emotional reactivity, procrastination, or other symptoms like that? Like for me, my brain just goes sometimes like, whoa, squirrel. Those of you who know me know I always talk about chasing squirrels. Well, you're going to love today's show because we have the most amazing guy on this very topic. And what is it? ADHD. What is ADHD? It stands for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And he has it inside, or maybe he doesn't. We're going to talk about that. And I've been diagnosed with it. And wasn't diagnosed until I was an adult. But I'm going to tell you about this awesome guy. His name is Sam Led. He is a transformation coach. He works with people with this exact diagnosis and other things like that. OCD, other things. OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. So we want to really dive in deep here today. So if you feel like you're someone said to you, you know what, you're always like scattered. You never have you can't focus on anything. You can't ever get anything done. And you never finish a project. This episode is for you. So stay tuned as we move forward today and introduce you to Sam Led. Sam, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to be here. And in the proverbial green room that was before you hit record, you and I, it's funny. We're having such great cognitive reverie, but it was kind of like two ADHD minds like talking to each other. So
it is. Thank you for being here. And I love you talk about yourself and you say you were born with a neurodiverse brain, and meaning that your brain just works differently. You said you were diagnosed with ADHD, OCD, and GAD, which I'm not even familiar with, by, of course, professionals. So I want to hear about that. You thought you needed fixing, and this is why I so relate to you, because when I met you on Clubhouse a few years ago, and then have been watching your posts and your Instagram posts, which are amazing, by the way, everyone, you have to subscribe, check him out. I'm like, yeah, Sam, you get me, man. You get me. This is my life. Yes, yes, yes. So I can relate to this feeling like, am I not with it? Am I incompetent? Am I stupid? I was put in special ed classes as a kid. I was always thought of like, I can't focus and concentrate. I can't comprehend what I read, but I had other skills. And then finally, a few years ago, someone said, no, ADD is a superpower. So I have ADHD or ADD. And then you go on and tell me how you felt, what you think. You said, we talked about something in the green room beforehand. You said, there's no such thing as ADD.
No, I threw you a zinger. It was like a Hail Mary, and you caught it because you kind of got where I was going with this. So again, thank you for having me on. I'm a transformational coach and soon to be author of a book called Beyond ADHD, and I have a podcast called The Fearless Now. Yeah, I'm giving it all away now because I'm forgetting.
Great, I love it. I was actually going to bring it up. Yes, because your book's coming out in like a month, right?
No, it's we were actually going to launch it during ADHD Awareness Month, which is in October. Instead.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's exciting. And this is a labor of love. This is my livelihood and also my passion to seeing, I'm kind of like a catalyst. I like to kind of point people back to what they already know, their essential nature, which is their own well-being underneath the noise of their thinking. And so ADHD does not exist. It's a conceptual thing, right? It does not exist. It's a neurotype. It's just how our machinery works. There's probably about 250 million folks out there around the world that have this diagnosis, ADHD, but there are countless others that have a neurotype like ours. And when I say neurotype, it's just how the neuromachinery works. We have a very brilliant, creative, intuitive, technicolor mind that is probably some of the most successful, including yourself, Jill, artists and politicians and writers and engineers out there that have learned how to use their mind to work for them. So ADHD is kind of like this. Okay, I'm going to try to give you the simplest metaphor. Okay, so look at your computer right now, Jill.
Mm-hmm.
Now my computer, and it's 30 YouTube windows open. I have, Reiki videos, and I have self-help videos, and I have car videos, and I have, Governor Newsom videos. 30 windows open, and sometimes I hit the play button in some of them, and they're all talking at the same time. Now, knowing what I know about how my mind works and what I share with my clients and pointing them back to like nothing broken, nothing to fix, because your mind just doesn't have a filter to filter out all that neural information coming at us all at once. But we have this thing called discernment and awareness, conscious awareness, which every human does, every neurotypical does, and every neurodivergent or neurodiverse person does. That I can see what's going on. And because we are experiencing all this outside stimuli all at once, and the prefrontal cortex, the executive functioning part of the brain, doesn't have that like filter. Like I'm a Gen Xer, I'm going to just admit it. Like when the old stereos, you had like with a turntable, you had like subsonic filter, like noise, Dolby noise reduction, something to filter out some of the background static. Well, our brains don't have that, for better or for worse. Now, because we don't have that kind of filter, and I'm probably going above and beyond the answer to your question, we don't miss a beat. We misperceive cues sometimes. We feel overstimulated sometimes, sensory and auditory and otherwise, and we need to take a little break and step back from it. But because we are experiencing this information coming from the outside in all at once, we're the greatest pattern recognizers. We're the most intuitive people on the planet. We see details and patterns that most people don't see, for better or for worse. That's why we're empathic. That's why we're great therapists and doctors and ER paramedics and nurses, and I can go on and on. Okay. But we're not taught that in school. We're not, I always say to my clients, I say, can you imagine if you went to brain training school? They taught you how to use your mind, your ADHD mind. They taught you about emotions. They taught you about thinking and cognition. They really taught you how mind works. It's kind of like a pilot going to pilot training school. Pilot just doesn't get on the plane and says, okay, I need to memorize what these instruments do and these instruments do and what this lever does. No, they get like accumulated hours. They learn the science of flight and all that stuff. And then they have to like fly for 3,000 hours or whatever it is before they can become certified to be a pilot. Right. Well, we don't do that with our brain. We just we just memorize stuff in our formative education. That's it. Mm-hmm. So you throw our brains into the mix, our brilliant brain, it's like an F1 race car, right?
That's a relief.
It's like an F1 race car, but an F1 race car with this very, very powerful engine, fast engine that has a lot of torque, needs special maintenance, right? That's how our brains are.
Oh, I love that analogy.
So like you wouldn't put tires that you put on a Honda Accord onto an F1 race car, right? You wouldn't put the same oil in a Honda Accord that you'd put in an F1 race car. You wouldn't even put the same gasoline. It requires a higher octane gasoline. The same thing with our neurodiverse brains. And once we see that we're not broken, we're not attention deficit, we're just attention different.
Attention different.
The whole world, way we see the world, the way we see ourselves, the way people see us, man, it's a game changer. So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to let you.
I love that. No, this is so helpful because I think when we talked before and some of your posts, I'm always like, stop talking about me because there's so much that you say that resonates. And I think going back, I think for someone who's wondering, is this me? For me, I was sent like, here's my story. I mean, it just to give you a background, so maybe someone else can relate to this, is as a kid, I was like the behavior problem. I was the one who'd be in the back of the room laughing with the boys, because I wanted to cut up and have fun. and I'd get yelled at because I couldn't sit still and focus. And yet I knew I probably was smarter than a lot. I could tell I was quick. I got bored easily. And so then I would go, like, I'd be sent to the school psychologist. I probably read more ink blots in the school psychology room and, in other places.
We're good friends.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, what do you want me to say? What is it today? I don't know. It's a freaking butterfly. I don't know. But, they were trying to figure out, like, why am I such a behavior problem? And so it was back in the day, in the 70s, in primary school, is that they didn't diagnose girls with that, with ADHD, ADD. It was mostly boys. And so that's why they never even thought of it. And then the teenage years, same, I kind of just rebelled. I just didn't really apply myself. Got great grades without studying, or average grades, but I didn't study much. And then it wasn't until I went to college the second time in my mid 20s that I went to a psychologist, because I was hearing about this and I'm thinking, could it be? And because I was like a C student, I could do C's, some B's, but never really A's unless I really liked the subject, which was weird because it was always something about pattern recognition. Actually, now that I think about it, balancing equations, algebra, totally love it. This equals this and they balance, love it. Anything that, is very, logical. So then I went to a psychologist in my probably 26, something like that. And she said, there's no way to diagnose ADHD other than just to try the medication. I'm like, okay. So I tried Ritalin, and I was just going back to college, and literally my C's turned into A's. I could focus. It was, the way I described it was, if I have a mess all over the place, like you said, 20 tabs open in your computer. I do that, by the way. And I find ways to manage things like that. But it's like everything's a mess on the table, and I've got to clean up the table, and suddenly with the medication, I go, okay, let's see, there's 10 plates. Let's grab the plates. Let's separate the pen, the silverware. Let's put the napkins here. Okay, this is the food. It goes back in the fridge. All of a sudden, everything just has a category where it didn't have a category before. Mm-hmm. And so that's the best way I can explain it. And so then I've just bought this for the second half of my life so far, is that, okay, so I've got this and I use the medication every day. For me, it's Ritalin or methylphenidate. But then we were talking a couple of weeks ago, because I'm like, would you please come on the show? Because I would love to talk about this. I think so many people suffer from this. Either they already are diagnosed and they're treating it, or they're undiagnosed and they're adults. And I think I'm jumping around because that's what ADDers do, but is that the person that I'm thinking about, people I'm thinking about here, is like women, especially hitting menopause, hitting their late 40s, perimenopause, menopause. You suddenly get the brain fog, which if you don't even know you have ADHD and you're not treating that, and then your hormones are going crazy, you've got like all these different things going on. You think you're absolutely nuts. So that's another sidebar, but I'd like to first of all address, like, what is it that the symptoms, is it normal? What would you say someone should do first? If they're going, yeah, Jill, that is so me. My God, that sounds just like me. And Sam, you're so spot on. That's exactly what I feel. Or I'm already on this. What do I need to do next? What's my next step? What should I do to check this out?
So wait, I'm just to go back. So what you're asking me is that if you suspect you have this kind of brain type, and you kind of suffer.
I'm using it. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So one thing, and again, I'm not a clinician, I can't diagnose or treat. I'm a coach, so I work with folks that whether they suspect they have ADHD or not, or anxiety, depression, all kinds of stuff. It's a Venn diagram. I would check in with yourself and point to the space. There's this space, this liminal space when we fall out, we're thinking we're just present. Like right now, you and I are present. We're talking to each other. There's a quiet, right? Where thinking falls away. That is our call to presence. How much time do you spend in presence? Okay. Because when we're present to what is in this moment, right? We're not ADHD. It's impossible. The space that we're present, this created, I call this liminal space, where it's either before thought, where thinking falls away. I always it's kind of like in Florida, and I live in Santa Barbara, but like I grew up in South Florida, where it's raining on one side of the windshield. If you're going down Brickell, if you're in 305, I'm a 5, Boca. If you're driving down Brickell, there can be raining on one side of the windshield and clear on the other. Point to that clear spot. That's who we really are. That's where we create. You don't have to meditate. You don't have to go to some dojo or some kind of, ashram, or meditation center to do that. We drop into that space all the time. But because it's like a piccolo being played and not a rock band, the rock band is a noise. We think the rock band is truth, which is the anxiety and the overwhelm and all the information swirling around in our head, going so fast. The cognitive reverie and the task management, what I need to do next. Oh, I'm hungry. Oh, I need to take my medication. Oh my God, I have a 10 o'clock appointment. Oh, look, there's a cute squirrel over there sitting on the, that's my brain, technicolor and brilliant. We create in the space of quiet. It's in that liminal space. I call it the God space. I call it's the call to prayer space. That's what if you're a Muslim, it's the call to prayer when they, or when the Jews have, Shabbat and the Christians have Sunday, whatever. I would time yourself, or just be real. You don't have to time yourself, but just be really aware of that space where everything outside of you can be completely chaotic. I mean, talking like you could be on the freeway and you're late for an appointment and you're like, okay. And thinking just falls away, and you're stuck in bumper to bumper traffic. And there's like 10 cars stacked up, and we all been through that. And you're going to be an hour late. There's nothing you can do about it, but then you just get quiet. Now, up in the head, up in our conceptual mind, in the supercomputer between our ears, in this, I call it the neural spin cycle, we'd be like honking a horn, like, come on, guys, let's go, screaming. But when we get present to what is, that's where we create. That's where we find the next step to the solution to our problems. That's where we fall in love. That's where we just know what to do when we need to know what to do. Now, if you're not in that space a lot, and you're constantly being pulled into the chaos, and it's leading to suffering, that's when I would go talk to somebody. Because I look at medication, and you and I've spoken privately about how I look at medication, like methylphenidate, like the Adderalls, the Dexedrines, the Focalins, all that, blah blah blah. It's a software update. It's kind of like, I look at it as a wife, your Wi-Fi, you can boost the signal, you put a booster on it to, you can go to like AT&T store and they give you a Wi-Fi booster. It's streamlining the neural connection. It's helping our body metabolize less of dopamine. It's helping us absorb more dopamine to the system. It's producing more dopamine, right? And so it's wonderful if you look at it that way. And when if you're not present to what is a lot and you're really suffering, it's time to go talk to somebody. People like, I don't know about you, Jill. I looked at medication, and I was looked, especially back in the early 2000s, late 90s. I started taking medication like 2000, 2001. I had a late diagnosis. I was diagnosed in 2000. So I was like 26.
Right, same age as me, yeah.
27. And I was misdiagnosed. Everything, they just throw, it's like throwing darts at the board. It's like, Sam, this week you're this. And they threw a dart at the board, and like, okay, you're GAD. And then you're OCD. Okay, probably have OCD.
What is GAD, by the way?
Generalized anxiety disorder.
Okay.
Because with a high-speed mind, if you don't know how mind works, if you don't know how to use your mind, you don't see how the diagnostic system works, what I mean is if you're looking at anxiety as a bad thing, you're suffering. Think about what I just said there. If you're looking at it as an anxiety or any of the symptoms or side effects of a very high speed, very busy, brilliant mind, you're suffering. And suffering is optional. Because all anxiety and all the side effects of ADHD, because it's a Venn diagram. No two minds are different. And I was mentioning to you before, minds are as different as the billions of stars in the sky. Like, you can't find a mind, like, we have patterns of behavior, and in a neurotypical versus neurodiverse mind is another argument. But in ADHD mind, there's similar, it's very similar in terms of some of the processes and some of the behaviors. We could say that. But if you think that you're ADHD, you're not. But my concern would be is if you're spending a lot of time in your ADHD processing and less present, then it's time to go talk to somebody.
I love that. Okay, so that's good. That's good distinction of knowing when to do that.
Yep.
But I think the biggest takeaway I got from everything you said there, which is, this is where I always go every time I'm reading your post, stop talking about me.
Yeah.
Is that this one resonated huge is, because you're right. I'm like, oh yeah. Is we create in the space of quiet. And so when we're aware of the present, it's when thinking falls away and we get quiet. That's where we can create.
Yeah.
And I love when you said that it's where we fall in love and we do what we need to do.
Can I give you an example of how just for your listeners about what I mean by that? So about 20 years ago, I was clinically depressed. This is before I was taking medication for the ADHD, but I had a breakup, and our brain loves us. Our brain wants to keep our world small. Brain loves us. Our brain, and I love my brain. I know you love your brain, and poor brain sometimes. I'm just like, I know you're struggling sometimes, but I gotcha, because we're not the sum total of all our thinking, and we're not our thinking. But 20 years ago, I was clinically depressed. I don't remember it, but I was clinically depressed. And I remember I came back from California because I just couldn't function, and where I couldn't function. I went home. And it's like, aren't you too old to go home? Like, no, you're never too old to go home. As long as your parents are alive and they love you. And I was really just decompensating. But there were moments during the day when I was present and I was just fine. I wasn't ADHD. I wasn't depressed. I dropped out of my thinking naturally. Our brain has a self-settling system that will settle our thinking automatically. Our thinking is really fickle. Like, if you hold on to if you just sit with your crazy thinking, your anxious thinking, your overwhelmed thinking, you're going to settle whether you like it or not. And you're all onto a whole new thought thinking experience. We have the brain and how our mind works is brilliant. The design of our system is working perfectly. There's nothing ever broken. Now, people will say, well, I'm suffering. I have an anxiety disorder. I have this and I have that. I said, no, you don't. You're having anxious thinking sometimes, but you're looking at it the wrong way. We're just misusing the controls. We're misusing the tools. We're misusing the equipment innocently. What I mean by that is that anxiety is our brain's diagnostic system to protect itself. It's kind of like an overheating hairdryer. I always blow out the fuse, and when you go to a hotel and they have like your own personal hairdryer, and you're like this, and it's got the bag. It's so fancy, you feel like you're like a Rockefeller, but you're not. And you're wearing the robe in like a 4-star hotel, and you get the slippers, and you're looking at, and you turn the hairdryer on, you're blowing your hair, and all of a sudden you blow the fuse, and your whole room loses loses lights. That's kind of what anxiety is. It's the brain going too fast. It's telling you to slow down, Sam. It's kind of like when you touch a hot stove when you're a little kid and it hurts and you pull your finger back. Well, if we continuing focusing on that anxious thinking, we're going to blow a fuse. We're going to get more anxious, and eventually we're going to get depressed. So when I was depressed 20 years ago, really depressed, I noticed like moments when I was not depressed. I was okay. Like I remember this is before Netflix. So one of my favorite movies is the original Great Gatsby with Robert Redford. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the other one is I love Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, and I would watch these movies over and over again just because I felt like when you're depressed you feel like you're underwater, right? It's all part of ADHD, because that can be if you let ADHD, the high speed mind, like get best of you, you're going to get depressed or anxious. And I remember just like watching like the scene where Catherine Ross is on the bicycle, Paul Newman, Robert Redford's girlfriend or his lady interest, Raindrops Are Falling on My Head is playing, and he's going around in circles and having the best time. I'm like, I could do that. Presence. That's presence. And I remember my mother coming home once. I was in mid-20s. She's like, Sam, are you faking this? Because she would see me as okay. And then I would go back up into my depression again later on.
Yeah.
So we're all just one thought away from a whole new different thought experience, and we're all just one thought away from not being ADHD.
Okay, I get that, and that's so reassuring. And then I also am big on identity, and people like this thing with, sometimes we stay attached and we want to hang on to our
Yeah.
disease because we get it. There are human needs. There's a payoff.
Yeah.
Because we're a victim, and I'm not judging saying
Security
people
blanket.
who have it,
Yeah.
but it's the question that goes on is like, do I really want to stay depressed? Do I really want to feel this way? And what's the payoff I'm getting? And then that's one thing. So that this will piss off people who are watching, who are in that state, who are going to hear this. But I challenge or suggest delicately to consider why this might be, this way of thinking and this talk, this discussion might be stirring up things in you, because we can always go into inquiry and ask, why is this bothering me? Why am I feeling triggered by this conversation right now? I have ADHD, there's nothing I can do about it. I've been diagnosed and the medications have worked, and you don't know my situation. I can just imagine people watching this and thinking that. And so I'm thinking, wow, you must really feel big about your ADD label, like this is who I am. I know people have chronic pain and they just will not give that up because it is who they are. And I want to get just in a loving way. I want to say, think about it. And is it really something that you could consider some freedom and some relief and some like just having some bliss and some, releasing the chains and releasing this feeling of like you can't not having control of your body, because the thing you're saying, it sounds like to me, is that I'm almost choosing to think a certain way, and if I can challenge my thoughts around it, and I'm willing to take that leap and trust myself, my inner being, my heart, my soul, enough to say, you know what, I'm not depressed today. Or I wake up and I'd say, you know what, I don't want to be depressed today. And I feel like going to be there. I'm going to be hitting that wall today. So what do I need to do differently? How can I manage this differently so I don't go down that slippery slope?
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said there about kind of challenging your thinking, because our essential nature, like our default setting, is well-being. And that's not some like personal development psychobabble. This is not coming from, again, you could live in a shack-tun shack in the poorest country in the world and still be happy. I have a friend who's a hospitaler in Ukraine. He's a volunteer. He's ADHD. He's an ADHDer. He's totally brilliant. He's writing his first book on his experience in Ukraine. His name is Brandon, and he hospitalers basically are volunteer medics that drive and pick up and rescue wounded soldiers and civilians in Donbass region. And I'm going to give you an example of our inner resilience. Like we always know what to do. We always know what to do. Like, even when we think we're depressed and hopeless and, whatever, ADHD, whatever it is. And like his van was hit by a landmine, going to rescue people, and like he should be dead or he should be like severely wounded. He was severely wounded, but he knew to get back on. He knew that he was going to heal. He knew that his wounds were going to heal. Like when you get cut, when we cut, like, okay, here, broke my wrist. I am not worrying or depressed in the fact that this is not going to heal.
Ooh.
I know that there's built into the system, into who we are, is it's going to take care of itself. Like I don't talk to my pancreas all the time and say, pancreas, you better do a good job today. I'm going to be really mad. Like I know my kidneys are going to, I know my liver is going to do exactly what it needs to do to keep me alive. I know on the freeway, I know exactly what exit to get off of. I don't have to think about it. You know what, today, maybe I won't get off of the exit to where I live. Maybe I'll get off. No. I'm going to get off of that exit unless, there's an accident. Maybe I won't, but then I'll know what to do then. So what I'm saying is in the moments where I was not depressed, right? I kind of knew what to do. And eventually I was on to a whole new thought and thinking. I needed to have that rest, to have all this thought and thinking move through me, and for me to move on with my life and be okay. I saw my okayness underneath the noise of my thinking. And we all can do, we all have this blue dot of, I call it the blue dot of well-being underneath my thinking. All of us do. I don't care if you're in prison, you're terminally ill. So getting back to my friend, he hit a landmine and he was severely injured and he had a concussion and a whole bunch of other things. And he healed and he got back on the, and they raised money for another ambulance, another van, and he went back out into the Donbass and into Bakhmut, into these other, war-torn areas, and did the same thing. And he would say he would see people, right after a missile hit their apartment building, he'd be playing soccer in the streets right after, like, but our brain doesn't work that way. So there is some energy of spirit, of conscious knowing underneath the conceptual mind that just knows, like, we are built to be resilient, and we are also built to be loved and to love. And when we drop out of this conceptual driven mind, this thing right here I'm pointing to, ladies and gentlemen, and we're present to what is in this fearless now, this moment. I don't care what your circumstances are. Yeah, being poor sucks. Yeah, having cancer sucks. I'm not trying to sugarcoat any of this, but you can still have a good day and have ADHD. You still can have a good day and have terminal cancer. You still could crack jokes and have a great slice of pizza. Our brain overcomplicates everything. And once we see how mind works, and once we see that it's all thought created, ADHD, anxiety, everything is thought created, we won't take our thinking so seriously when we're overstimulated. We'll know what to do, whether it's to leave a room or to take a break or to let people know you're just feeling overwhelmed right now, that you need a little bit of a break. You always know what to do. And when I saw that for myself, I pointed more to the gifts within myself of ADHD than the negative stuff, the bad things about ADHD.
Okay, so that's a great way to segue somewhere to go with this is what are the gifts of ADHD?
Oh my
Or
God.
like,
That's a whole new episode. That's how we could do that.
yeah, no,
Great question.
Because I mean, I remember when someone said, oh no, it's a superpower. And I remember when I ran for office, my opponent in the debate said to me, is a challenge question. And I remember him, and it really pissed me off, but he said, in the legislature, you're gonna be required to read a lot of documents and a lot of papers and go through a lot of bills. What educational background do you have that will qualify you for that position? Meaning, like, and I'm like, I know, I'm like sweating going, he's freaking right. I can't read it. I can't get through a big book. I can today, but back then I was like totally a disaster. In feeling that, because I didn't understand how to use my brain. And so this is where you said in your thing about, feeling like you're not smart enough, not good enough.
Right.
And missing that window is what are the superpowers that we can, what are the hacks? Let's use that word, superpower hacks, things that we know about ourselves that actually we excel and do better at than most people.
Yeah. Wonderful question.
Why are we special? Why are we special?
Why are we so special? Yeah. Why do we have all these gold stars, right? I'm a trapper keeper. No.
I love stars on my trapper keeper.
Me too. Very close to my heart. Well, one is boundless empathy. Boundless empathy, because the ADHD brain is so misunderstood. And we don't, growing up, I didn't know. I felt like, oops, did I lose you? Wait,
nope.
There we go. I thought that I was like an alien on Earth. Like I felt like I didn't, until like I found my tribe within, I found my neurodiverse tribe at school, and they were actually the musicians and the, people in drama class, and also athletes too, but not like football players. They weren't the pituitary cases. They were the tennis players, or the because I love tennis, or they were like the ping pong play, like, and again, I'm sure there are ADHDers that are football players. But boundless empathy and understanding for the stranger.
Oh right? My God, stop talking about me. Oh yes. My God, that's my life.
Having just unlimited empathy for others. Also the gift of intuition. And when and also because we hyper focus, we have omnipotential.
What is that?
Omnipotential is it's unlimited what we can do in our life when we're focused or hyper focused and not caught up in the machinery. And that's why I say to people, pay attention to the moments when you are present right now in this moment, listening to me and Jill, or Jill and I. Was it me and Jill? It doesn't matter. Pay attention to those moments where you're just quiet for no reason. Because if you're present to what is, you're in the zone, you're in the flow. You're in the flow of life. Like, life has got us. Like, life is living us. We're not living life. Life is living us. And once we see, like, you can put on your white lab coat, the proverbial white lab coat. Get really curious when you're overstimulated, when you're distracted, when you're impulsive, when you're overwhelmed, and see what's going on in that moment. And as soon as you're just aware of any of these things, you're present. You're damn present, and you're ready to rock and roll. So self-awareness, believe it or not, you think it wouldn't be a superpower. Self-awareness is actually a superpower of the ADHD brain. Once we understand how the brain works, how our mind works. I'm not talking about how mind works from the perspective of a neurologist or from science. I'm talking from the consciousness perspective, that we are not the sum total of our thoughts. We are not our thoughts. We don't own our thoughts, but we are the manager of our thought factory. We have, we're not the creator of our thoughts, but we're the manager of our thoughts. And so we are quick on the draw. We learn things really quick, like, especially if we're interested in it, because we have an interest-based brain. Okay. If we're interested in something.
What kind of brain?
Interest-based brain.
Interest-based brain.
Now, because we have an interest-based brain, is something
interest-based.
Sorry, yeah.
Like if we aren't interested in it, it's like it just washes over. It's like our eyes glaze over.
But the good news is
because that happens to me.
Yeah, me too. Like, forget it. If you give me something I don't want to do, hell no, I'm not going to do it. Exactly. Now,
if I'm interested in it, I will be like, yeah.
I'm like freaking. I'm freaking a Jedi Knight. I'm like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I'll get it done faster, quicker. I'll research. I'll find the answer.
Oh my God, I'm there. Like, you can't. That's why we have omnipotential, if we can maintain our focus. Now, because we have omnipotential, when we're interested in something that's, we can do it. We can create worlds. The potential is unlimited. Not to say that we're going to slip up. It doesn't mean that I don't get distracted. It doesn't mean that I don't get overstimulated. It doesn't mean that I'm not impulsive sometimes. It doesn't mean that I don't talk over people sometimes. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be late to activities. No, I'm still human. I still have this, but I'm more aware of it, and I don't stay caught up in all of that as long. I drop it as soon as I notice that I'm becoming distracted. I either say this to my brain, "Hey, brain, get over here." I'll just like grab the brain by its collar, the proverbial collar.
I love that. I love the way you personify it or give it an identity in some way, because then you can actually manage it. When you
But there's nothing to manage. It's just like
you can say like, "Hey, come over here. Okay, we're going to focus." Right. It's like I talk to myself out loud all the time. I mean, probably Alexa is like going, "What the hell's wrong with her?" But yeah, whoever, Tim Cook or whoever.
There you go. There's another brilliant aspect of the ADHD mind is sense of humor. Holy shit. Your favorite comedian right now, ladies and gentlemen, has ADHD. I guarantee it. Whether it's Robin Williams or Bill Burr, or whomever it is, they have ADHD. Because they have suffered.
It's pattern recognition. They've had weird things happen to them, but it's that you can identify like funny, like things that are like odd and bizarre.
The mundane,
like a connector. I'm a connector because like that whole thing is pattern. Like I will connect inappropriately, like an ex-boyfriend. It's like, oh my God, I've got introduced him to this guy. I know we're not speaking, but this is so weird. But if I will not be able to sleep if I don't put the two of them together, because I just have to connect people. It's just like you have to put the plug in, the outlet.
There's the thing there. So like having discernment and self-awareness is really being more of a manager of your thought factory, because everything is based on this gift we call thought. Thought is the most brilliant technology ever developed. And without thought, I wouldn't be here, and nobody would be here right now. Our parents would have met and they wouldn't have had us. So we're just innocently misusing the equipment. We're seeing now, and the reason why is because we're conditioned since when we're born, the first 7 years of our life through our formative education to believe that it's an outside in experience, that our outside world is somehow affecting our inside world. Actually, it's the opposite. We're not living in the world of our outside experience. We're living in the world of thought. That's 100% true. That can't be questioned. And because we have this inner narrator, I always say we have like this inner chatty Cathy that is like Shanghai Shek, Dalai Lama, Napoleon and Putin all talking to us, right? That's our reality.
Yeah.
But we have discernment over that high-speed reality we call ADHD.
Exactly. It's like it's our point of view in the rose-colored glasses in which we see the world through. And that's where I love this thing about inquiry. Byron Katie wrote this amazing book. I love her work. Yeah, because it's like it causes us to question everything, not just things that we want to judge about people, but it's myself even. It's like, oh, well, I don't like what she's saying right there. And it's like, well, is that true? What don't I like about it? Well, because she thinks she knows everything. Well, is that true? Does she know everything? It's like always questioning and because whenever I'm judging others, I'm suffering. Whenever I'm judging myself, I'm suffering. Whenever I have a thought that's not pure and whole, because like you said earlier, as you said that our innate in our nature, we're designed to be whole, to have wholeness in our life.
That's who we are underneath our thinking.
I call it inner peace, and I call it just be in unity.
Yeah.
And that is something that today we are living in a society where we want to put everyone in boxes and then quickly identify, because we're getting so much information so fast that we have to put people in boxes or things in boxes and categories to say whether or not they're for us. And so it's like, oh, that person believes in this, so they're not my people. And so they're out. Okay, then I'm going to say this food, oh, I don't like that because it has mayonnaise in it. That's out. You know what I mean? We always are assessing and we're deciding whether or not we're connected with it or we're disconnecting from it. And really, if we just question why a little bit and stop which I love what you said, is that whole thing about sitting in stillness. And that's where the creation happens, is so huge. And I know that's true about myself. I have a really hard time with meditating, although I did do a week-long retreat last week that
we're in a walking meditation all the time. We are
walking. Yes. And
we drop into the present moment all the time. We're just not paying attention because it's not sexy. It's not 4th of July fireworks like our noise is, the noise in our brain.
Okay. I have a question for you then, because this is what I'm thinking. And what happens to me is when I'm doing something, let's say I'm on Clubhouse, I am doing at least 2 other things at the same time. And I'm likely, honestly, playing like a game on my phone at the same time, because I have to, when I'm talking to someone, I can't just sit still. That because
I'm right now? I'm doing all kinds of stuff. You can't see it, but I'm like,
yeah, because it's like, and that's where getting in trouble in school came in, is like, teachers lecturing. I'm like, oh, I'm probably like working on the homework from the last class and getting it done because I don't want to be like, 2 things at once. It's like, well, I can get that knocked out while she's talking, and then I'll do her homework in the following class, and then I'll do the other one on the bus on the way home. And then I get home, my mom goes, do you have any homework? I'm like, no, I did it already. Because I did it in each class as I went along, because I wanted to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Check the box off. And get the stars on the, I hadn't thought about that's hilarious. But you know what I mean? It's like, it was more about doing and getting projects done. So is that something that is not sitting in presence? Like sometimes just sitting still and looking out the window and absolutely doing nothing.
Mind wandering?
It's like, that's really hard for me.
So what's your, I'm sorry, repeat your question.
Well, like, is that not sitting in presence if I'm doing something else and maybe not talking or listening to anything, but if I'm playing a game or I'm doing whatever, where my brain is actually it's almost like I'm going into a trance where I'm really not with anything, but I'm sort of thinking and it's processing. Do you have to be
presence? That's not presence. Presence is where you're present to what is. Now, present to what is. You're hearing my voice right now, right? When things slow down or speed up, it's also the zone where you lose track of time, where you all of a sudden are in this state of nothingness, of no thing, where you this feeling of just satisfaction for no reason, or insatiation, where you just feel okay for no reason. And it's not, there's no emotion attached to it. There's no feeling attached to it. You just feel, good. Like not good in a dopamine way, but like you just feel satisfied for no reason. And you don't know why, because you still got bills to pay and your mortgage and your kid's sick and your car is at the shop and you're hungry, but you just drop into that moment of just, and it's like,
There's no outside influence.
I call it the moment of infinity. We
Moment.
all do it every single day because it's not sexy. It's not like, it's not Metallica. It's not Metallica concert. It's like, easy listening station. It's like a piccolo being played.
So you're saying that it can't be like while you're in the shower or getting a massage, because those are, to me, it's almost like you're saying it's really coming from within. There's no outside.
No, it's always
outside stimulation, that you're being stimulated in some way, whether it's eating, you're doing something with your visually, your hands movement.
Let me stop here 1 second. It's coming from your soul. It's not inside here. It's not inside your body. We are spiritual conscious beings in this meat jacket, this physical meat jacket. It's coming from your soul. Consciousness. What is psychology? The study of the psyche, study of spirit, but it's taken its own path over the last 100 years that's lost its way. But there's no neurochemical brain thing going on. It's underneath that. It's underneath the noise of the neurochemicals. We go into that space all day long. We just don't pay attention to it because it's boring. It's not like, it's just quiet. I'm hearing like you just are present. You're just being.
So
it's like sitting in a waiting room at your doctor's office, and there's no magazine there, and you're not on your phone, and you have like, Barry Manilow's playing in the easy listening station, and you're just you're just like, it's quiet. And all of a sudden you just drop into the present moment and you're like, cool. You ever just like, I mean, I do a lot of hiking in California. I live in Santa Barbara, California. You ever like go to just walk on the beach? You live in Miami, you're walking like on the beach and waves.
Not that much, but I think that's going to be in my future based after this interview.
The waves are crashing on you and you're feeling the water between your toes.
I love that.
And you're just feeling like there's no future, there's no past, there's just present. That's what I'm pointing to.
And I can understand that.
Does that make sense?
It does. So like something like, and I'm thinking about myself right at the moment, but it's like, so music in the background, people who love to have TV on all day, or just, constantly being in connection with people on the phone. Maybe it's something like a Clubhouse thing, or listening to a podcast or an interview, being on YouTube. Those things are distractions and prevent us from being in the present moment.
Well, you can be present to that. You can
okay. I see. Thanks. I'm glad we got clear.
You and I are present to each other right now. I'm present. I am not thinking about my lunch. I'm not thinking about like the next client. I'm not thinking about, my mortgage. I'm thinking about just sharing my truth and my experience with you and your audience.
Okay. I get it now. Okay. I get it now. There was a guy who used to say to me, Jill, you have to chop water and carry wood, or something like that. We're basically
carry water.
Yeah, whatever it was, right? Did I say chop water?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I made my bed this morning.
I love doing two things at once, and that's probably where I get all like fucked up, because I'm going.
You can do that, but you're not present. But see, this is the thing. Like making my bed this morning, early in the morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning, I was present. I was enjoying that. It's enjoying the experience of making your bed. It's being present to making your bed. It's being present to taking a shower. It's being present to getting to driving on the freeway. Like, that's what I'm pointing to.
Damn. That's the most important part of it. I mean, that is to me right now, the biggest takeaway we've talked about so far is sometimes we think we're so crafty, like that Jedi Knight you said, is like, oh, I'm going to get in the shower and I'm going to think about what I'm going to ask Sam. And I'm going to think about how many hours I have after that before I have to pack for my trip tomorrow. And then I'm going to do this. And okay, wait, I need to make sure I get that thing out of the shower there. And okay, don't forget that soap because you want to take that, right? Okay. And then so I put it by the door, and then I have these little hacks, like ways to remember to do things. And so when I get out of the shower, because I don't have a notepad, I'm like, okay, I talked about 3 things to myself. What were they? I'm like, oh yeah, go get the soap, make sure I write the question I had for Sam and how many hours, you see what I'm saying? So like, but I'm kind of effing myself up there because
well, sometimes we're up in the machine, and you just described being up in the machinery in this supercomputer between the ears, our brain. And sometimes, see, when we're present to what is, and you're feeling like when you're in the shower and you're feeling the water and the soap and you know, the whole, just going through that beautiful motion of cleaning your body, you're present. And then wisdom comes through you. And then we have an insight. Like, I did not know what I was going to talk about talking to. I don't prepare for these things. And I do a lot of these things. I don't prepare because when I'm not present and I'm not authentic to what I'm saying, I'd put you to sleep. I put your audience to sleep. So when I'm present right now with Jill, talking to your wonderful audience, I am most authentic and am grounded in myself. Our grounding is our presence. Our grounding is our presence. You don't have to do any techniques for this, ladies and gentlemen, because it's your default, it's your default state. It's your essential nature. It's who you are. You're not your thinking. Your brain loves you, wants to keep you safe, but your brain is not where your wisdom is. Your intellect is not where your wisdom is. Your wisdom is underneath the noise of all that nonsense. When we fall when we fall in love, when we run for office like you did, when we want to buy a car, we don't make these decisions from our intellect. We make it from this other space that I've been pointing to, of presence, and that's where our wisdom is. And that's where we're not ADHD. And that's why I have a problem with ADHD being, yeah. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. You said because it's when we're in that present moment, we don't have ADHD.
Nope. We are Sam and you are Jill, and we are just, it's the God state. It's, some people call it God consciousness. Some people call it, it's just, it's a call to presence. I mean, you can have that if you really want to experience something like that. If you're religious you don't have to be religious, sit in the back of your favorite concert hall or your favorite, or if you are religious or you like to go to church or synagogue or mosque, sit in the back of that place in the quiet without trying to meditate, without trying to do stuff or doing prayer, and see what happens. Without a preconceived agenda.
I think that's why we say my best idea is when I'm not, if I'm not in meditation, which I don't do that very often, but and I need to do more of, because I think it does calm me and help me in other parts, but that's just me. But where my best thoughts come in are usually when I'm getting a massage, because I can't be doing anything else, and I'm relaxed and I'm in the moment, I'm enjoying it. Yeah. And then is the shower when I'm not thinking about other things.
Exactly.
There's moments and I'm like, oh my God, somebody should invent a notepad for showers that, it's like, I need to write this down,
Right. I
actually audioed myself, like in the massage, like when I get an idea, because that's usually when my best thinking is. It's so funny. And it's because it's relaxed and my hands can't do anything, and they can't my eyes can't divert to things.
You're present.
Yeah. Damn, you just nailed it. That was so beautiful. So Sam, before we wrap up, tell us more about how people can reach out, other than obviously I love your Instagram videos. They are so awesome. Sometimes they make me laugh. I open up, it's like the first thing that shows up because I have you on my favorites. And so I'm like, Sam's up to some really cool thing where it's like this fuzzy look and he's driving and it's like, yes. So
I've had fun with those. They're a lot of fun to do. Well, thank you for having me. This is an honor, and you and I have been talking for over a year now, on and off. Well, no, more than that. I think a year and a half.
2021.
Yeah. 2 years. Wow. And I just love what you're doing and being a catalyst and a change agent for people. You can go to my website, samledconsulting.com. My Instagram is samled1111, and that's kind of cheesy. Those are the 2 places where you can reach out to me.
You're on TikTok too. And
We'll
put all the links in the description below. And do you have how can people work with you, or if they have questions and they want to get to know you better? You have your book coming out in October.
I have my book Beyond ADHD coming out in October.
And your
which is
podcast.
about everywhere. My podcast is The Fearless Now, which is a love letter to ADHD and neurodiversity. And if they want to learn more about how they can, your listeners can work with me, they can go to my website, and I do private consultations. And I just did a webinar yesterday, 2 days ago, on thriving with ADHD and anxiety. So I love this work, and this is my bread and butter. So I would love to hear from your audience, and hopefully I can be of help.
Oh, I thank you so much. I know you will be, because I know so many people. It's funny when you have something or you start talking about it, it seems like we attract people, it's like,
Yeah,
so
totally.
but yeah, so I will definitely be passing this on. And thank you, Sam, so much for your time today and for sharing your wisdom. So if you like what you heard today, please share this with someone that you know that may be struggling with this or already that has been diagnosed, and also subscribe and check out our other videos, because we have some amazing speakers coming up. I am so excited of what's down the road. I've just scheduled 3 new interviews yesterday, and I will be sharing those very soon. So stay tuned. And everyone, thank you. And thank you again, Sam. It's great having you.
Thank you, Joe.
Stay connected, everyone.